Now, this video is going to spark a lot of Christians to obviously get on this and start rejoicing like, oh, he's a Christian, he's born again, he's this, he's that. It's going to make a lot of people happy to start, but then as they're watching this right now, they're going to realize that my walk with Christ is not normal. It's not what society, it's not what the mainstream has purported. It is not anything that most people think about. Now, I will say this. Jesus Christ is a figure that I revere tremendously. And my life goal is to embody him to a T. Now, will this happen? Who knows? Probably won't. Probably will fall short. But I wanted to bring this up because I know that religion is a big thing in today's society. There's clashes of religion, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism. There are all of these clashes of religions, right? Even Hinduism, etc. And I wanted to give my take on what my perspective is on this. Now, I'm not here claiming that I'm correct. I'm not here claiming that everything that I'm saying is right, but it is my perspective that has brought me a lot of peace in life at this point in time. So a little backstory on me, man. Like, the reason why I choose Jesus Christ as the figure of embodiment that I choose to walk with, and I'm going to explain why I say it this way. I grew up in a Christian household, right? Very, very devout Christian, evangelical Christian, or Pentecostal, whatever you want to call it, right? There's also a problem with all these denominations and shit. But my dad was a pastor, as I've said in previous videos when I've spoken about my father, right? And I sucked everything in, pause, in terms of all the information that I was getting from pastors, from religion, from everything. That sounds fucking crazy, doesn't it? No. I took in all of the information. I don't even want to redo this video. I took in all of the information that I was getting from pastors, religious figures, etc., about you need to believe in Jesus Christ. You need to repent and you need to believe in Jesus so that you can go to heaven, right? And there was a lot of fear mongering. There was a lot of, and you may be going through this right now. I speak because there will be some of you who understand where I'm coming from. And this message that I'm about to tell you may actually free you in general. Maybe you're in a feeling of not knowing and almost anxiety because you're getting hit with all these different things. I grew up in that household and I read the Bible religiously, literally. Like, I was reading the Bible daily. My dad would assign me different passages to read. I believe I've read the Bible multiple times. And I've learned something new every time I've read it. And, I'm even at a point where I'm rereading it, but I'm really reading the red letters of Jesus for a reason, because I want to understand Jesus better. Better than how most people nowadays understand, because I think most people nowadays understand him at a very surface level. And he spoke in a lot of parables, and he spoke in a way that a lot of people could understand during his time. And he distilled a lot of very deep metaphysical concepts in very, very simple ways to digest, which I believe is the true mark of a genius, is somebody who can take complex information and distill it into a way that everybody can understand, right? So I started studying the Bible, and I was just seeing all of these incongruencies with how people were perceiving it and how people were trying to implement it as law in everybody else's life, how people were trying to standardize it with what the actual message was and what the actual message of Jesus was. And I would ask so many questions to where I would piss a lot of people off. I became the black sheep of my family, right? I became somebody that, my dad struggled talking to, because I would ask questions that would force him to think, and he would say, well, I don't know, just have faith in God and you'll make it in the rapture, right? And you know how Christians think now, the rapture is going to happen. The rapture was supposed to happen a few days ago. That shit didn't happen. Crazy, right? But as I got older, I started to basically remove, because I got to a point where I hated myself, because I thought, well, I was born imperfect. Why the fuck am I born imperfect if I didn't even want to be born in the first place, right? Why am I born imperfect? Why am I born a sinner to the point where, what if I died at 3? Would I just go to hell because I was a sinner? Like different things like that would go through my head. It's like all of these different rules just make no sense and they contradict each other. And I started unlearning a lot of these things as I lived life. And I stopped being a Christian at a certain point in time. And I started to just withdraw from the whole thing, and I got into learning other books, other religions. You look at Islam. I haven't learned it deep enough, but it's something that I want to learn because I do believe they all distill the similar truths to a certain extent. The Bhagavad Gita, like all of these different religious texts or spiritual texts to really understand the culmination of how everything looks. And everything came down to me, right? I got to this point where I realized of all of these books, of all of these different religions, none of them said that what Jesus said was incorrect. All of them acknowledged Jesus in some way, shape, or form. Now, their interpretation of Jesus was different across the board, right? In Islam, they see him as a prophet, as one of the best prophets to ever touch this earth. Hindu, they see him as a guru, right? Even in Buddhism isn't necessarily a religion, but they see him as the Buddha. Like all of these people, all of these different categories see him as this figure. And for me, I was like, well, if everybody sees him as this figure, I don't see a flaw in anything that he said if you really understand it deeply. I need to emulate my life as this figure. And my walk with Christ, now we get into that, right? My walk with Christ has been very different. I'm not religious. I'm not. I don't think I will ever be religious. If I do claim a religion, it's literally just to shut people up and just not have discussions that are meaningless, right? You know, if somebody's trying to convince me that Islam is correct, great, I'm Muslim. Now what? Somebody tries to convince me that Christianity is correct, great, I'm a Christian. Well, what denomination are you? What denomination are you? Pentecostal, okay, great, I'm Pentecostal. Orthodox, okay, great, I'm Orthodox. You know, like for me, it's just a game at this point. It's fun, right? I don't want to challenge people on their own religious beliefs because I think everybody has their own perspective. But my perspective is Jesus came on this planet as a soul, just like we all do, by the way. We all come as a soul. And his entire mission was to teach a way to get closer to God. Now, how most Christians are going to be mad at me here, which is fine because this is just my belief. This is just my understanding, which could be completely wrong, but it works for me. I believe that you're not here to worship Jesus. And I don't believe that there's anywhere in the Bible, based on what I've seen, that explicitly states for you to worship Jesus. If anything, when people were worshiping Jesus, he accepted it. He was like, all right, fine, if that's what you want to do, because you know you're not going to change human nature. Right? If you're somebody who's ethereal, who they can't understand for a point in time, but everything that you do is right and everything that you do is extraterrestrial, people will put you in the category of worship. Of course, that's why we have all the other figures that people worship as well. Now, the interesting part about this is when you look at Jesus, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the light, right? Which my interpretation of that is his path, the way that he lived his life, the way that he impacted the world is the way that all men and all women, of course, but really men, because I do believe Jesus was the most masculine figure of all time. The most masculine figure of all time. Like the number one idealistic image and leader for men. If you want to live a perfect life as a man, you will emulate everything Jesus did. Now, the difference is everything was muddied, right? All of the texts were muddied. There were apocryphas that were basically removed. And the Bible ended up, from my interpretation, becoming a use of weaponization to create sheep on this planet. Because here's the thing, right? Jesus didn't write the Bible. God did not write the Bible. I don't know why people think that God would write the Bible. If that's your belief, great. It is what it is. My belief is that God will speak to humans directly, right? When they are closer to him by embodying how Christ lived, right? How Jesus Christ lived. And with that being said, a lot of the source that you're going to get is through experience in life. Now, the Bible is a good manual to help you understand certain things, much like how we read books. It's a great thing that you can use to understand life at a deeper level and even shortcut a lot of things that you may not have caught along your journeys in life. But a lot of people take it as this is the religious text that you have to read and you have to follow every little thing, even though there are historical things in the Bible that may not apply to our time right now, right? There are a lot of things that they did before during that time that may not apply with this modern time. Now, there are obvious truths that echo throughout eternity, throughout time, and obviously we can practice those things now and they make sense. But to understand the Bible, to understand Jesus, really, you almost have to rewire your brain and not be a sheep and understand, well, who crucified Jesus? And it was the religious institutions. It was the Pharisees. And in my interpretation, in the modern day, I believe that all religious people are equivalent to Pharisees. All super religious Bible thumpers, all of that, or even, now I'm going to piss some other people off, Quran thumpers, all of these guys who are trying to push their ideologies onto people without allowing those people to experience life and experience their own truth are equivalent to the Pharisees, because the Pharisees did not like that Jesus was teaching something that was different from the religious institutions that they had. And so for me, I got to a certain point where I was like, well, I want to follow Jesus, but I also realized that if I walk in the way of Christ, I will alienate myself from everybody, including Christians, including Muslim people, including Hindu people. I will be excluded. That is the way of Christ. That's literally what he said. My way is not everybody's way. My way is my way, and people will demonize you for that. You will be crucified for everything that you say, because what you say is not going to ring true to the collective truths that people have accepted. Like when I say I don't worship Jesus, I worship God through acting and being like Jesus, through doing the things that Jesus did in my modern time. I am in an act of worship to God, right? Directly. People will literally look at that and say that's blasphemous. They're going to say that that's going against Christian faith, which is why I don't label myself a Christian, because I don't want to give people the ammunition of labeling me. I don't want to give you the ammunition of labeling me. Because once you claim a label, which, by the way, Jesus in his time did not claim any label. He was Jewish, right? But he wasn't necessarily following a lot of what Jewish people did. Like, even on Sabbath and everything like that, people say, don't work, don't do this. He was like, it's just different. It's very different. And I say all of this because my walk with Christ has been a whole mission of embodiment. I look at all of the gurus out here, all of the influencers out here. They're all they're trying to copy Jesus's script word for word. Go out, evangelize, make content, change people's lives, bring on disciples, followers, right? And do things that make God happy, which is elevating humanity. They're trying this, but they're not succeeding, right? And I realized that Jesus was the ultimate personal brand. If you want to make it like super, super basic and almost like ape-like, Jesus was the ultimate personal brand. That's like, imagine your ideologies, your life has echoed through time to where people literally have built things around your ideology. Everything, to the point where people worship you, which is it wasn't his goal, which shouldn't be any of our goal. It's not my goal. My goal is not to have anybody worship me. My goal is to empower people to be able to find their own truth and live the best possible life in a way that they are glorifying God in their own way. Because glorifying God is different for everybody, right? Some people, it's creating a charity. That's glorifying God. Some people, it's helping other people in some domain of expertise that they have. Some people, it just depends. It just depends on what your life circumstance and context is, which is why I say the whole cookie cutter religion thing is breaking. And yes, I see there's a trend of people moving towards Christianity, people moving towards Islam, people getting back into faith. And I think that's great. I think as human beings, we need structure. Most of us, right? There's some of us that don't need structure like that. We just need that foundation, and we can build on that foundation through experience that we have. But my walk with Christ is all about embodiment. It's all about how can I embody Christ? Because what I've realized is that if I worship Jesus, I almost diminish exactly what it is that he wanted me to do, which was become him, right? And the interesting part about this is he said verbatim, and I'm probably going to get the exact quote wrong, but you can see it in the Bible. There will be those who come after me that do way bigger, better things than even I did. Now, this was a foreshadowment of how we live in society today and how the future is going to look. We have a lot more tools for medicine, which means you can actually heal people a lot faster, a lot better, which is what he was doing. He was healing people. You can influence a lot more people, even though he was the number one guy who influenced so many people, even without the technology of reach that we have, which is the internet. He still was able to transcend that and do that for his time. He's essentially saying that there will be more people who come and do greater works than he is, that do bigger things, which by definition means that he's not trying to say, I am God, like as in I am somebody that you worship, that you put at a distance, that you can't even fathom being at my level. He's essentially saying that I just set a standard, I set a way of life, and there will be people who come after me that run with that way of life and expand and do greater things, right? And for me, that was extremely powerful. Now, my idea of how I see how Jesus said was, we are all gods. Now, this is what's going to piss people off. We are all gods, but not with a capital G, with a lowercase g, which means we are all divine sparks of God. And our mission is to align our higher self with God, right? Because our higher self is a divine spark. We are all living somewhat in our lower selves with all of our temptations, with all of our things. And it's all about transmuting the darkness into light, right? And making that ideal version of yourself, the highest version of yourself, as aligned to God as you possibly can, as aligned to the Creator as you possibly can. Because I know God gets a negative connotation, right? That's the whole goal. Now, to do this, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of discipline, there's a lot of refinement in your mind, your body. Yes, your body. And this is another thing. I go on tangents because I'm literally coming up with this. There's no script. You guys know I don't script shit. The craziest part about this is Jesus' entire life arc reflects the life arc or the internal arc that a man goes through nowadays, where you're born, you're innocent, you gain knowledge, you gain understanding. Your old self, you have to allow for it to die. You have to go through this baptism of fire, right? Which means you burn your old self and you emerge as the newer version of yourself. And that's a resurrection. Every man has an internal resurrection, is what I've learned just through understanding things in different ways. It's all about the internal resurrection. You baptizing yourself in water doesn't mean that you're like this. Maybe, yeah, you're a newfound Christian. That's symbolic for that. But the deeper meaning is baptizing yourself with fire, which is what I do with a lot of my clients, by the way. I have them literally burn their old selves because I believe in the baptism of fire, which means you give up your old life, your old habits, your old systems of belief that didn't serve you, and you take on this new identity. And the whole act of sin, which is interesting because people think of sin as these specific things. All sin is, if you look at it from an actual definition perspective, it's missing the mark. It's like an archer who like draws his bow and he fires and he misses the mark. And all that is missing the mark of this new identity that you want. That is sin, right? So every time you fall into gluttony, that they consider that sin. Why? Because the ideal new identity, the new version of you, is not doing that. So you're going against the new version of you to go back to the lower version of you, the old self, which is a sin because you're missing the mark of exactly where you want to go. You can extrapolate this across actual life where people create new identities to be able to hold a new level of life that they want. But every time that they fall into the traps that they had with their old self, they fall short of that and they go back to that identity because life is all about identity maintenance with the identity that you want. So when people fall short of that, they go back. And it's the same that you see with Jesus, where it's like, he got this new identity. He went through the trials and tribulations. He went through the 40 days of isolation and temptation from the devil. And yes, temptation. And a lot of people think, well, Jesus wasn't actually tempted. Then why was that word in the Bible? He was 100% tempted. Maybe that was appealing to him. Who knows? But because people idealize him as God, as the God, they can't even fathom that he would have the temptations that a regular man would. But that was the whole point of him living this experience on earth. And that goes into deeper metaphysical concepts. Well, I do believe that Jesus chose to enter a body. He was a soul who chose to enter a body and experience life as a human, which is what we all do, by the way. We all have created, we've had this contract, we've had this journey that we've wanted to take as a human being, embodying this flesh on this planet. And we're living through the human experience to learn lessons, to transcend ourselves, to get back to God, which is what Jesus did, right? That's what I believe the patterns are. And that's what's interesting about this whole religion versus like walking with Christ. For me, is all about walking in the perfect way. And yes, there is a perfect way, but of course I'm going to fall short. And the whole thing of forgiveness, which is interesting. I think Christians think like, oh, let me pray and ask God for forgiveness. That shit does nothing, by the way. It does nothing. You know what forgiveness truly is? Asking God for forgiveness. It's abandoning the old way. It's abandoning the leak of identity that you have and actually maintaining that identity. That is true forgiveness. Like adamantly trying to maintain that identity. You know? And I do believe that all of these things that Christians say are sins, the reason why they're considered sins and the reason why Jesus spoke against these things is to help you live the best possible life. That's all it is. It's to help you live the best possible life. You not sleeping with a bunch of women and having a monogamous marriage and one man, one woman, and not having a polygamous relationship is to allow for your life to be easier. Because I will be honest with you, it is easier to be with one woman than multiple women. It is. I've done both. I like the one woman better. There's a lot more focus in my business, but that's just a way to make my life easier. It's not to just chain me. And people will say, well, it's man's nature to just go and be with a bunch of different types of women. That's your lower nature. We all have lower natures. We all have lower natures that have us inclined to hurt other people in emotionally, physically, mentally, everything. But it's how you go against that lower nature to a certain extent. Now, will you fall short at times? Absolutely. But that's the ideal, right? You will miss the mark. Now, understanding this whole like arrow missing the mark thing brought a lot of freedom to me because I thought, well, just because I missed the mark doesn't mean it's over, you know, like it's not. And this whole heaven and hell thing is very interesting to me because my belief in heaven or hell is different. I believe that heaven and hell is a spiritual thing. I believe that you can experience hell on this planet. You can experience heaven on this planet. You can experience pure bliss on this planet. By taking care of your health, by taking care of your mental state, by taking care of your mind, your spirit, right? Being closer to God, the closer that you are to God, the more of this euphoric heavenly feeling that you will have. And it's described in the Bible as gates, this golden gate with everything that you possibly want, with all this food and everything. Let's be real. If you're a spirit, you don't need food, right? It's all just like metaphors that people have taken literally. But when you get back whole with God, because I believe that God is universal intelligence, is this field of force that we have been pulled from to enter into this body as sparks of this light that God is, to basically learn how to transcend human existence. That's truly what I believe it is. And again, I could be completely wrong. But from my perspective, from me wrestling with this every single day, I've come to that conclusion for myself. I'm not saying that this is your truth. Like I said, the truth is malleable. It is whatever it is that you believe that actually helps you in life, that helps you become a better person and help other people. But that's truly what I see everything as, right? It's just I'm living a human experience. I'm a spark of God that's living human experience. And my mission, my whole entire frame is to essentially transcend this human state, this lower state, and get into this higher self state, which gives me this euphoria, which then gets me closer to God. And then when I die, I don't need to come back and do this shit again. and live hell on earth. That's truly what I believe. I could be completely wrong, and maybe I am. But it just goes into the fact that, like, yes, discipline is important. Yes, restraining yourself from bullshit is important. You know what I mean? But to take Jesus as God and worship him would diminish a lot of the effects that he would have on my life. Because now I'm offloading all of the problems that I have that God has equipped me to solve and putting it on a figure or putting it on God himself. And saying, you solve all this. This is what Christians have. God's going to solve all of my problems. God made you in an image of him as a spark, as a divine spark. Not an image physically, but as a divine spark, and gave you all of the mental faculties to be able to solve your own problems. And that is true worship to God, is being the embodiment of God on this planet. Jesus was the true worshiper of God because he literally embodied every single part of God. And that's why I choose to follow Christ, because I want to follow that way. You call me a Christ follower. I'm not a Christian. Because Christianity, and again, this is going to piss a lot of people off, that is the way of the world. The way of God is very different. It's a one-on-one personal relationship. It's God on speed dial. You know, whenever somebody tells me, well, God told me this about you and God told me this about you. I remember seeing this meme of this older black guy, man. It was super funny. He was like, God, okay, you told me that God told me this. Well, God has my number on speed dial. He could tell me directly himself. There's some truth to that, but there's also obviously you have to tune yourself to be able to receive the information. But, you know, there's a lot of charlatans out here, man. And this is why I reject the whole notion of Christian religion, because I see people weaponizing it in real time. I see people becoming Pharisees in real time. You see these business owners, you see these guys literally saying, well, build your kingdom. And, you know, this is a Christ-based business, a Christian-based business. And they try to basically sell guys on their own religion. And they try to weaponize religion for the weak-minded to be able to come in and say, well, Jesus said that this ad was for you. And God said that you need to invest $20,000 into this thing so that, you know, you can build your kingdom on earth. Bro, there are ads about that shit now. Christian entrepreneurs. And I'm like, it's all bullshit. Truthfully and respectfully, it's all bullshit. It's all weaponization. It's the same way the spiritual gurus weaponize spirituality, where they say, oh, abundance mindset. To be abundant, you have to give more. It's the same with churches. You have to tithe more. God doesn't need your fucking money, bro. Doesn't need your money. He needs your intent of what you're using the money for yourself. It's all about intention. But tithing to a church doesn't make you more Christian or more closer to God than somebody who doesn't tithe in church. That's your prerogative. It's your intention. Someone else's better intention could be building a homeless shelter or helping animals or helping some. That could be their tithing. But again, institutions have weaponized Jesus and weaponized Christianity to turn people into slaves so that they can get what they want. And even deeper, the slave masters did that with the slave owner, or with the slaves that they had. When we talk about the transatlantic slave trade and everything like that, you want to know the first thing they gave all these slaves? A Bible. That's what I'm saying. It's a double-edged sword where it can be used to fight for freedom and it can be used to fight for slavery. The Bible is a double-edged sword. That's what makes it so dangerous. It can be used to weaponize against other people, or it can be used to liberate. And obviously human nature, the lower human nature, is to basically enslave people to doing what it is that you want, to get what you want. And so you see this lower nature being reflected across humanity at this point. And Jesus went completely the opposite of that. You know, I do believe Jesus learned a lot of the spiritual concepts that we're trying to dive into today and was able to distill it into very simple things. Love others, love yourself, love your neighbor, right? Which I think the ultimate quote unquote path is love. That's the ultimate path. That's what I've learned, my walk with Christ, right? It's the ultimate path is you love people. Even if they hate you, you still love them. It's a very powerful emotion. It will get murderers. Love will get a cold-blooded murderer on his fucking knees, showing love to that person. Love is not a feminine thing, by the way. It's also a very masculine thing to love other people despite them being assholes and dumbasses and just idiots. You still love them, you know? I've learned that even in my comment section. I used to be very reactive and everything, even up until this point. And I got to a point where, man, even if people hate on you, you just show love. Yo, man, I hope you have a great day today. That will disarm anybody. Because what does somebody who is, and by the way, the whole demon thing, right? There are people who are demons on this planet. They are walking portals of demonic entities on this planet. I believe that shit wholeheartedly. And you will face these people every day. And to cast out demons from somebody, because you see how Jesus casted out demons. It is an act of love, and love can be no BS. Love can be full accountability. Giving someone radical accountability will cast demons away from them. This is why I've noticed I will get under the skin of a lot of men. I get under the skin of a lot of black men, which is crazy, right? By exercising radical self-accountability and pushing that onto them. By pushing that onto them, they almost go into like this exorcism. They go into like this demonic possession where they start to send crazy messages like, you're a bitch, you're this and that. Like, how could you do that? By almost implementing self-accountability, it's almost like you're casting out the demons and they're trying to stay and they're trying to fight you. And when you respond with love, it gets worse, and they're just like, who the fuck are you? Like, well, slavery, like victim mindset. And the minute that you say, no, you are responsible for your life. Slavery didn't put you here. You put yourself here. That is almost like casting out demons in the modern time. Self-accountability. So I say all of this because my walk with Christ is different. I'm not religious whatsoever. I don't plan on being religious. I plan on exploring all religions and taking the truth out of all of them, which to many would seem as blasphemous. But I do believe that is what God's way for me was. And I have a deep, and here's what I'll leave you with. You can say, well, Martel, you don't even know who God is. You don't know who Jesus is. It's like, I have a deep understanding of God because I've been through crazy shit. Shit that even if I explained it long, but I'll give you like abbreviated. I went to Haiti for 2 years when I was young. And there was a lot of black magic that was done on my life, which is what forced my parents to become Christians because they were not Christians at that time. They were almost atheists to a certain extent, right? They became Christians because they saw how I was being persecuted as a young child. Trying to be possessed, someone trying to possess me as a demon. Someone trying to transmute me into being a slave on their plantations, on their fields. That's what they do in Haiti. They turn you into, look up Haitian zombies. They turn you into, that. I was going through that process. I was being targeted. And I remember my mom telling me, they're targeting you because you have something. You have this powerful force inside of you. And maybe this is just moms being moms or whatever. But I do believe that there's some truth to that because she was like, there were so many other kids around you, but you were the only one that they were targeting. They wanted to basically take you out. They wanted to take your soul. And I experienced this in real time. I experienced like all of this shit. And the only thing that my parents said that delivered me was Jesus. And I believe it wasn't Jesus the figure. It was the energy of Christ that they were able to basically put out, that basically casted all of these things out and embodied me, right? And, I'll leave you guys with this. I had a dream recently that kind of changed my entire perspective of who I am and how I'm supposed to be moving through this world. I had a dream, and I won't even tell you the details, but summary. I was attacked by a demonic entity. I could see because I have these types of dreams where like I have psychic entities that will attack me in dreams because I have a very, very long lineage of demons inflicting themselves into my family and my life and everything like that. Because I come from Haiti, and Haiti is a very, very, it's a very troubled place. My ancestors went through a lot of trouble, everything like that. But, I was attacked by this demon with a disfigured face. I remember I was in a movie theater, I was laying down, which the symbolic representation of that is being relaxed, being in comfort, being in a very, very, like lazy state. I was attacked by this demon. I looked over, this disfigured thing comes over, and it literally has a knife, and it's trying to cut my neck off. It's trying to cut my throat, slit my throat, and kill me in this dream. I remember my wife was next to me, and literally, she said that my eyes were rolling backwards in this dream state that I was in. And I was almost like shaking. And it's funny, we have 2 cats. Now, at the time, we only had 1. That cat was literally staring at me. And cats are very psychic, and they're psychic forces where they can see shit. They can see spiritual shit that's going on. It was just looking at me. It's right next to me, right? Almost like, hey, I'm here. You know, I want to, and it was almost like it was absorbing this energy that was taking place. And, you know, for me in dreams, I don't submit in dreams. So I hold the knife, literally grab the knife, and I throw this entity off of me, and I get into rage mode, and I go and I try to kill this entity, and then I wake up. Now, the symbolic representation of this dream that I was able to understand is that I have a very powerful tongue. I have a very powerful voice, and I have very powerful concepts that I haven't even told you guys. Even this is like scratching the surface. These truths that I've come to terms with that could free a lot of people from a lot of shit. And while I'm in this comforting state, that's the best time to basically just cut out my voice. Maybe it's deplatforming. Maybe it's, you know, not even posting because I get too lazy. In this lazy state. But when I get into this mode of evangelizing, which is my own concept for myself of like saying the truth about fitness, saying the truth about women, saying the truth about relationships, saying the truth about, you know, spirituality, religion, all these different things that are like big topics in this time of period, saying the truth about identity and empowering you. That is pissing a lot of demonic entities off. And all they want me to do is go back to those lower levels and just say, fuck it, I'm not going to talk about this stuff. By me even working with people and delivering people from a lot of the shit that they go through, whether it's physical ailments, whether it's relationship problems, whether it is mental problems, and helping people, giving people frameworks to be able to solve these problems, I will continuously be attacked. But that's my mission. You know, I kind of just feel a charge saying this. My mission is to free people. It's to free people from slavery. And not just physical slavery. It's slavery of the mind, slavery of the body, slavery of the feministic world that we live in where, you know, men are literally being cucked by women and they just are completely emasculated. Financial slavery. Men don't know how to make money. Men don't know when they're going to make ends meet. Men are struggling. And I've been granted with this ability to break out of chains, which I've done in multiple times of my life, so that I can deliver that to you. So this is a long video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you feel like you want to take the next level and work with me one-on-one on different aspects of your life, again, my whole thing is being multidimensionally jacked. Train everything, train your body, train your mind, train your social understanding, your social intelligence, train all of that stuff. Train your finances, train your business building skills, all of that stuff. I do all of that with you so that you can become multidimensionally jacked. That is the essence of my one-on-one work that I do with people. And it is one-on-one. It's not giving you a course, letting you do that and then fucking off. No, I'm actually with you 24/7. My clients know that, all right? I take 5 people every month, really. I'm on number 4 at this point. It's very interesting. I just onboarded, I'm onboarding a guy tomorrow, Wednesday. I don't know when I'm gonna drop this video, which could be today, maybe, this Wednesday. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited to work with these guys. Now, full transparency, I'm still building everything. I'm building structures around how I want to make it smooth and running, but I'm working with everyone deeply one-on-one on their specific problems and creating frameworks to solve those problems for other clients that I have in the future. If that's something that you want to work with me on, again, the link will be in the description. I do it at the end now because I want to give you guys all the value first, right? And the people who stay are the people who I even want to work with to begin with. And if you are interested in buying any courses that you believe that can potentially help you, because I can't help everybody, I can't freely help everybody just my time. I have 24 hours in a day, you know, feel free to buy and download one of my courses and work on that and use those frameworks that I've used for myself to get better in that area that you want, whether it's building your YouTube channel the way that I did and, you know, gaining some freedom and influence, right? I'm going to add the business side of it soon. Right now, it's just building the audience the way that I've built it for yourself. And a lot of people have seen success in that. A lot of people have seen successes in their businesses if they already had a business set up. It's a very, very good course. Communication course, charisma course, everything that I learned to be more charismatic, the bare bones, everything you need to learn. Fitness program, right? All of my different workouts that I do, my philosophy around it, my philosophy on nutrition, everything, literally a decade's worth of knowledge all condensed into one ebook. Identity OS, basically just being able to shift your identity with this mechanism that I have, which a lot of people have found a lot of value in, etc. Right? So if you want all of that stuff, the links will be in the description. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next video, bro. Stay blessed, train everything, and follow your mission.